It looks like Jacob is with us by remote. Hi, Jacob.
Wow.
Jacob. Closed session, Jacob.
Yeah. Sign out.
That's right. It's a private meeting.
You can print it that way if you want.
Okay.
You can print that out.
Can you hear us?
He should be able to because the mics are on. Yeah.
9 o'clock, I'll call a special meeting of the county board to order. We'll be on the flag pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hang on just a minute here. Beth, you want to do the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen? Here. Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Commissioner Pop?
Here.
Commissioner Gopinski?
Here.
Commissioner Heinen?
Here. Monty.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to switch things around and maybe do the TNT item in a second and do the budget levy first.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so today's action is to ask the board to consider what we call the proposed budget and levy for 2022. Today's action would set the maximum allowable levy for taxes payable in 2022. Just note our budget process started back in June with development of what we call the base budget, working with departments on their expenditure and revenue estimates. The board had several budget meetings with departments back in August, and then there were 2 work sessions, I believe that was last week. So a lot of time and effort went into the product that's here before you today. I'd like to just cover Mr. Chair, a few of the points that are on this one-page summary sheet, if I may, just commit those to the record, give a few highlights of what's going into the proposed budget levy. So this proposed levy represents about a 5.9% increase over 2021. One thing we certainly talked a lot about in the recent budget sessions was to the extent that this increase will be partially offset by growth in new construction. Mike Harvey, our assessor, told us we'll see about 1.14% growth related to new construction. So that helps spread that tax increase over a larger tax base. Definitely helps us. Although we do have this increase, we're still looking at an average 0.8% increase over a 10-year period of time. And that's illustrated in a graph that's later in your packet. We might take a look at that too. But so over 10 years, we're still looking at an increase of about 0.8% on average. One thing to note is that we're expecting, again, as Mike Harvey told us, 7.7% expected growth in our tax capacity for 2022. This should result in a small reduction in our county tax rate from 55.21% to 54.30%. And I definitely want to note that's down from a peak of 77.7% in 2013. So our tax rate's down over 20 percentage points in that period of time. One thing often comes up, I get a question about, okay, how does this translate into what a homeowner might pay? And I know there's various categories of property, agricultural, commercial, and so on. It seems to be the one that most folks are interested in is this sort of hypothetical house. And on a $250,000 house, county taxes would go up $57 a year or $4.78 a month. The operating budget is up 16.2%, but a big chunk of that, almost half of it, is related to a much larger county road program in 2022. Kind of makes our budget go up and down from year to year, as one year we may have a really big road program, the next year not so big, and that's about half of that increase is due to a much larger road program. And in the next bullet point down, I tried to break out the various components that make up this levy increase, and you can see that employee compensation benefits certainly makes up a large part of that. No surprise there, county government is a very people-intensive operation. For most departments, your average department, about 70% of their budget is personnel, salaries, benefits, and so on. So not surprising that makes up a big part of our levy increase. We have a 2.5% COLA, step increases, and we're also implementing the second half of our class and comp study in 2022. The board chose to add some new positions as part of the budget discussion, added about $550,000. We're restoring some highway capital equipment funding. And we're also going to use some of our American Rescue Plan Act funding as we are allowed to do to replace some lost revenue, primarily inmate boarding revenue and then MnDOT state aid for roads that was affected by the pandemic. As departments point out, this is mostly in human services, Some of those new position costs are offset by revenue. It's about $255,000. And we're going to use a little additional reserves to help bring that levy increase down to in 2022. But as we noted in the budget meetings, our fund balances are in good shape. We have about 6.8 months of expenditure coverage. Our standard is 5, so we're in pretty good shape to use some reserves to help lower the levy increase. If you note on a few new positions that are added, the homeless outreach social worker, a men choice social worker, a public health nurse for the First Steps Collaborative, and adult case aid. The board also decided to add a position to our IT department. I think everyone tends to agree that we need a strong, a well-staffed IT function because we wouldn't do business without a good IT department. So I think there was strong consensus to support that IT position and also an additional position in human resources. One thing that's important to note is the board in this proposed budget would increase funding to the Benton Economic Partnership. And I think the board recognizes the value of that investment, and hopefully there'll be a good return on investment. I think the BEP is a very strong organization these days, great prospects for the future, and I think the board felt really comfortable investing additional resources to help that organization thrive in the future. So I think I generally covered the last couple of bullet points. Again, a lot of the increases related to employee compensation benefits, and unfortunately we're looking at about a 12% increase in health insurance for 2022. We are seeing some large cases that are hitting our reinsurance coverage. Just as a slight illustration, I think it was for 2022, we paid about $500,000 in administrative costs and reinsurance premiums to Preferred One, but got about $1 million back in reinsurance. So the reinsurance carrier lost a lot of money on us, and they've got to recover that. It's almost kind of like if you have a car accident and you have a big claim. They're going to get it back from you eventually through higher premiums. So we're seeing a 12% increase in our health insurance premiums for 2022. And I covered the issue about fund balance in the last bullet point. That's all I had to say, Mr. Chair. Definitely, if board members would definitely want to make any comments about the budget and levy, please do.
Okay, comments? Anybody want to make some comments?
Mr. Chair, Monty, just a quick question for verification. Is the dollars that were Chris brought in front of us for grants, is that included in our revenue?
Which one in particular?
The $150,000 roughly that he came in with that day.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You bet. Yeah, that's shown as additional revenue to the highway department. And I think the notion there is that help cover the cost of some of the equipment. Absolutely, you
Sure.
bet.
So that would show up in the highway revenue amount?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
We counted that for sure. Yep.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, Monty, so that 12% increase for health insurance, that'll be on a 2-year program probably? So that it'll be before we can probably see an adjustment?
Well, is it a two? I'm sorry. Maybe you could say that question one more time.
So we're having a lot of
Large cases.
we're having a lot of large cases,
Yeah.
and at that point in time, those cases carry over to the next year.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a 12% increase this year. So I'm trying to.
How long does it last?
Yeah, correct. Thank you.
What might be the prognosis for
Yeah.
23 and beyond?
Right.
Very difficult call to make. Yeah.
You know, like my unemployment insurance and work comp insurance premiums that
Yeah.
I pay and all that. You know, they average out. You know, they carry on through 2 years before I even see any adjustment
Right.
and all of that.
I must say I don't have in-depth personal knowledge about the cases that are driving this. To some extent, it might depend upon how long those cases continue and how long the associated medical bills continue to come in. Again, I don't know, and I obviously couldn't share those here in a public meeting anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But that's really the factor. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just kind of elaborating on Commissioner Heinen's comments. This is being seen across the country, let alone our state. These increases, they've been going up. They're going to continue, I believe, to go up. I don't think we're going to see a decrease
anytime soon.
You mean in health insurance?
In health insurance,
Okay,
it's across the board, whether it's in private business or county, state, everything. It's gonna be there. The other thing I just want to comment on, I mean, our levy really, our increase really is between a couple things: road construction program and employee compensation and benefits, which we had to do to be in the guidelines for the state. Correct?
Well, I think, you know, our wage study showed that we were not comparing well to the group of counties that we chose for that selection. Mm-hmm. We also found that we had a pretty serious problem with compliance with pay equity, mm-hmm. and we needed to make adjustments to make sure we were in compliance with the state pay equity law. So those two factors drove the compensation study.
Okay, thanks, Monty.
Mr. Chair, and this question may be for Commissioner Heinen, Commissioner Pop, or Monty. Historically, what's been the practice when the board approves the preliminary budget and there's new positions that have been approved in there? Are department heads allowed to go out and hire at this point, even though there isn't a final budget adopted? I guess you know where I'm going with this.
I know departments are usually very eager to begin recruitments, and I tell them is that nothing is final until the budget is adopted in December. So they just have to wait.
Mm-hmm. And again, this would be our maximum budget.
Yes, right. Maximum.
Cannot be increased. Right. Can be decreased, though.
It may be
Could
decreased.
be decreased.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. You know, like I know there's a long lead for the maintenance grader that the highway department wants, but I don't expect him to go out and sign an order blank for it right now, because if this grant don't, I mean, we got to make it known, if this grant don't come through, that's off the table. We're not.
I stress over and over to departments, it's not final until the budget is adopted in December.
You know, I think the budget, this is the largest budget they've been since I've been here. A couple of things, I'm not real happy with a couple of positions that we had, that we put on, because one, I don't think we give our class and comp study enough time to realize if we were going to have some benefits to that. And we've never added this many employees in one given shot on a budget. So I think there was, you know, maybe a little extra spending went on that shouldn't have probably went on. And we need to hold that in check from here on forward, because we are not a large county when it comes to our tax capacity dollars. And we can either do it with less people and pay more, or we can do it with the same amount, you know, the same amount, or add more people and pay them less, but we can't do both. And that's the way it's going to have to be from here and into the future. I mean, and department heads are going to have to, they've heard it in the past, and they're going to have to hear it going forward, because our, you know, the goal has been to get our tax rate down in that 40 to 45%. You know, we've been moving, I think we were 77 or something, 78 when I came on, and now we're down to 54, but this is the lowest decline we've had in years. As far as other entities taxing, yeah, other entities are taxing. I think our health insurance is you know, what we had really good years when we first went to the self-insured, and I don't know if it's employees got less careful or if we're just having more, you know, bad luck claims. But you know, our fund balance was really growing in that uninsured fund, and all of a sudden, the last couple of years, we've been at a.
Agreed. I think there's a couple of years where we had good experience, and
and it looked like a really good deal when we went to it. Maybe it ain't quite so good anymore. I don't know. But the counties that are in it, we haven't heard from them on what their reinsurance is doing neither. So it'll be interesting to see what the other, what is there, 7, 8 entities that are involved in that, how theirs comes out. But you know, it is what it is, and we have to move forward. So. And with any other questions, otherwise we'll be looking for a motion to.
So the first action would be asking you, as in the agenda item, a first motion would be to adopt a resolution to set the 2022 levy, and then the second motion would be on the budget.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution setting the proposed 2022 levy at $21,412,944.
I'll second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded, set the levy at 22 million some odd dollars. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chair, excuse me, 21 million.
21 million?
21,412,944.
Okay. Hearing none, call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And the second one is approve the resolution setting the proposed budget as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution establishing the proposed 22 Benton County budget as presented.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the Benton County budget as presented. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And all we have left, Mr. Chair, is just a
Truth and
small chore
taxation.
for our board chair to announce the date, time, and place of our Truth and Taxation public meeting, as you'll see in the agenda items. And of course, Beth is, we need to go into the minutes in the record. Yeah,
I gotta find the right date in that right now.
December 14, 2021 at 6 o'clock.
That's been planned for a little bit.
We don't need a motion on that, we just announced.
No, just an announcement,
Okay.
that's it.
So
Yep.
I'll announce that our Truth and Taxation public meeting will be December 14th, 2021 at 6 PM in the boardroom here.
That's all we need, thank you.
Motion to adjourn,
Yep.
So moved.
second.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you, Jacob.
Carried.
Will we have we won't have a board meeting that morning then,
We usually have the board meeting that
that night with it?
We do everything together.
Okay.
Yeah.